Hey there, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if this is your first time here. My name is Erin and I make videos about what I get up to in my sewing room. Today's video is a review of the True Bias Shelby dress and romper. It is very exciting because I made this garment specifically for my husband's deployment homecoming. He has been gone for over 6 months at this point, and he should be back in the next 3 to 7-ish days, hopefully. So I finished my homecoming outfit because obviously I needed an outfit for this occasion. And yeah, if you're seeing this, that means he's home, which is so exciting. My best friend, my partner, my co-parent, the person in the house that actually doesn't mind doing dishes is home, and our family is complete again. So that's just very exciting. We are here though to talk about the Shelby. I made the romper version, and I'm going to be giving you all of the details about sewing this and the pattern and the fabric. And then hopefully at the end of this video, I will have some pictures of me actually wearing it and welcoming him home. True Bias describes the Shelby pattern as a princess-themed dress or romper with 4 views. Each has a V-shaped neckline, front button opening, and back waist tie. Views A and B are dresses with a traditional short sleeve. View A is a mini dress hitting mid-thigh, while View B is a longer dress that ends around the ankle. View C and D are rompers with a cap sleeve. Obviously, you can switch the sleeves around. The romper gives the illusion of being a dress with the coverage of a short or pant. View C is a mini length romper hitting mid-thigh, while View D's hem ends just above the ankle. It is $16 as a PDF on their website, and it comes in 2 size ranges, 0 to 18 or 14 to 32. You do have to purchase them separately. Closet Core has a similar thing where there's 2 size bands. A lot of companies do, but when you purchase them from Closet Core, you get both size bands. You do not with True Bias. And I'm just using Closet Core as an example because that's one that I know off the top of my head. You have to buy the size bands separately for True Bias. There is some overlap in there, the 14 to 18 category, but the 0 to 18 size band is drafted for a C cup, and the 14 to 32 size band is drafted for a D cup. So that's the main difference there. Both size bands cover a 32-inch to 59-inch bust, and then a 34-inch to 61.5-inch hip measurement. So between the 0 all the way up to the 32, it covers those measurements. It is drafted for a person that is 5'5", and then the C cup and D cup respectively for each size band, like I talked about. It is listed as an intermediate pattern, but I would say a confident beginner can definitely do it. Maybe even just a beginner kind of trying to stretch their skills. There's nothing crazy in this pattern. So the skills that you use are attaching a facing and understitching, sewing a curve for that princess seam. So it's not like an extreme curve, but a bit of a curve. Putting in buttons and buttonholes. Now there's no placket, it's just the facing, and then you put your button and buttonholes into that, and setting in sleeves. So really, truly nothing that I would consider to be intermediate. Like I said, confident beginner or a beginner just kind of trying to learn more skills. The instructions are really good, really clear. There's not too much detail, but it also doesn't leave you wondering anything. There are some tips and tricks in there to help you with things, like some tips on sewing the end of the ties, a little bit more detail into the understitching. It doesn't define understitching for you, but it shows you really well on a diagram and in the description or in the instructions kind of where to start and stop with the understitching of the facing. So there are some really good details in there. The fabric I used is a Royal Shibori tie-dye cotton organza from Serge Fabrics. This is a designer deadstock, but they do still have quite a bit available. It's a bit sheer. I don't know if you're gonna be able to see it super well. For just a blouse, I think it would be fine with a skin tone bra underneath. I don't think you would really see anything. But since I did make the romper and I knew it was gonna have, you know, a bottom portion, I decided to go ahead and underline it with this brushed cotton batiste that I got at Vogue Fabrics. It's a very similar weight to the organza and was like the right color, right choice. I'm really happy with how that turned out. This pattern is intended to be sewn with fabrics that have drape. It says such as rayon, challis, crepe, silk, voile, and linen. So I would not classify this as having much drape, especially with being underlined. There's quite a bit of structure to it, but I still really like how it turned out. You get that illusion of it being a dress, and I will probably make this again in the future with an actual rayon or drapier fabric, and I might make the dress or the romper again. I really like the kind of coverage and protection of having pants or shorts on, but it looking like a dress, and this does that illusion perfectly. The buttons I used were from my stash, which I stole from my mom's stash at one point, and they're just these white buttons. I had a couple that were a little bit too cream leaning and then looked very yellow when I placed them on the fabric. So for a little bit there, I thought I was gonna have to actually go buy buttons, which always feels ridiculous because I have a huge button stash, but you know, sometimes you just don't have the right one. However, I did manage to dig up 5 of these that were the perfect size and shade. I did the short sleeve, not the cap sleeve, because I do have larger biceps, and I don't like how a cap sleeve looks or feels on my arms. So I went with the short sleeve. I did do the short romper. It says it ends mid-thigh. I don't entirely agree with that. I am taller than what they draft for, and I did lengthen it. I'll talk about my modifications in a moment. But I also hemmed it shorter than the instructions say to, and I still wouldn't say it's mid-thigh per se. And even in the pictures on the website, I would not say mid-thigh. I would say a couple inches above the knee, which to me are 2 different things. Like the thigh is a pretty long part of your body. To me, mid-thigh is about halfway. This is a couple inches above the knee. I made a size 14. All of my measurements are down in the description box, and I fit pretty much straight into a size 14 on the 0 to 14 size band, except for the fact that it's drafted for a C cup. I am an A cup, and I generally don't have issues sewing things drafted for a B cup. Like they're both small, it's close enough. I don't end up with a lot of extra fabric really. And for some reason in my mind, I thought that also applied to a C cup. I know that I read what it's drafted for because I made a length adjustment based on the height. I, for some reason, was like, oh, C cup's fine. I apparently in my brain did not think it was going to be an issue. However, it was. So the length adjustment I made. There is a lengthen and shorten line on the bodice. If you make the longer version of the romper or the dress, there's also a lengthen and shorten line down on the legs, on the lower half. But because this is a romper, it did not have a lengthen and shorten line down there. The cut line for it is prior to that lengthen and shorten line. I made a muslin and I added 1 inch to the lengthen and shorten line on the bodice because I am 2 inches taller than what they draft for. And obviously that 2 inches is spread out over my whole body. So I felt like 1 inch at the bodice should help with that length issue. And I was really concerned about the crotch being too tight. However, it was too much. And on the muslin, the crotch felt really baggy. So when I cut the fashion fabric, I decided to make it only half of 1 inch and then scoop out the back crotch curve a bit because I do have a pretty full bum. However, that scooping did nothing. I scooped out, I think, 1/4 of 1 inch, and that just, it didn't do anything. It really did not. I think I just need to start defaulting to a full seat adjustment. I think it would have been a little interesting because there are princess seams in the back, so that would have been maybe a little trickier to do, but maybe even just like a crotch extension on the back crotch would have helped more than the scooping, or scooping more than 1/4 of 1 inch. I do have enough ease around the hips on this that I could probably play with scooping it out more, but I don't really want to at this point. Maybe if I wear it a lot next summer or want to wear it a lot next summer, it'll be worth going back in and modifying that, but it is wearable. I have to pull it out of my bum sometimes, whatever. That's all the clothes I wear. But it's not like an uncomfortable wedgie the whole time I'm wearing it. So I think it's fine. The other modification I had to make was because of that whole C-cup thing. I had so much extra fabric pooling up here, right? So here's the bust apex. I had so much extra fabric up here because it's drafted for a C-cup. What a mystery. Wonder why that happened. So I just put it on inside out, pinched in. It ended up being about 5/8 of an inch on the seam. So taking out 1.25 inches total there, I guess. I did that on one side, sewed it, was happy with the fit, mimicked it on the other side, and the fit is much better. Could it be even better if I had done a small bust adjustment or if I took out a little bit more? Yes. What I did not want to have to do was mess with the shoulder seam. The shoulder seam is a little far out for like the perfect spot, but once again, it's wearable. I don't think it looks bad by any means, so I'm fine with it. And I did not have any level of interest in unpicking all of this and then having to also bring in the back princess seam to make it match. No interest in that. So I just did what I could to make it still look like a normal seam, not have it be wonky, and kind of tapered it about here. It's so hard to tell with this fabric. I kind of tapered it in about here, took that extra 5/8 of an inch and then tapered it back out to the regular seam here. And that has made it better. I don't have all of that excess fabric and it's comfortable and wearable and I think looks really good. And as a friend of mine said, I could show up wearing a paper bag and Adam would not care. So this is just for me. This was 100% just for me to have something fun, a little bit patriotic feeling. And yeah, I love that the waist ties come out of the back princess seams instead of the side seams. I'm not a huge fan of the look of waist ties at the side seams because it then pulls that side seam back and I feel like you can end up with some weird bunching and just, I don't love the look of it. So I think these are cute and fun. They pull it in just a little bit, but they're more of a design detail than a fit thing. Let me show you the inside of it. Because I underlined it, I, for the most part, pressed my seams open and finished them just because it was gonna be too bulky to have all 4 layers of the fabric together. The exceptions were the arm side and the crotch seam. But I think it looks really good inside actually, even with having to make those princess seam modifications. I did not line the sleeve. I didn't think that was necessary at all. So that is just the fabric on its own. One other modification I made was the hem. I played around with doing a double hem, which is what you're supposed to do, like a double fold hem, but it was too bulky with all 2 layers of fabric, double folded with 6 layers. It was just too bulky. So I just serged both of the layers together and then pressed it up a single time. I shortened the leg by 1/2 inch and then did a 1/2 inch hem. So I ended up with 1 inch less than I was supposed to. No, 3/8 of an inch shorter than the hem was supposed to be. It's not a huge difference, but subtle enough that I think it looks a little bit better. This was my first time sewing a True Bias pattern for myself. I've made my husband the Hudson pants, but I think that's the only other True Bias pattern I've made. I have quite a few in my stash, but this was the first one I made for myself. Overall, the fit was pretty good. I wish I paid more attention when I bought the patterns to the fact that they're drafted for a C cup, just because that is a significant enough difference from my cup size that I'm going to have to make some modifications on patterns in the future. Although the other True Bias patterns I have are mostly pants. So that's nice. That does it for my review of the True Bias Shelby dress and romper. What do you think, you guys? What do you think of my make? It was not the perfect fabric choice for this pattern, but I am really happy with how it turned out. Have you guys made this pattern? Are you interested in making it now? Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and I will see you in the next video. Bye. Your area, you see the red circle with the white.
All right, David, how long has it been?
6 months. Happy birthday. Welcome home.
Thank you.